3 of the trilogy. Will you please take your left hand, slap your right, make some noise for Mr. TODD and Colin Paul.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you? You don't sound it, what's going on? How are you? Now you sound it, you sounded fab. Okay, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this afternoon's interview. The third in our trilogy, like Elvis said, with Mr. Todd Slaughter. So, Mr. Todd Slaughter. Okay, let's go back. First question, let's go back to the time that you first got involved with the fan club when you had a meeting with the Decabots at the time, Sir Edward Lewis. Way back in 1962, I might add. How did you get to see one of the biggest executives in the UK music industry?
He was the biggest until he turned down the Beatles.
Really?
Yeah, he turned the Beatles, but he did get the Stones.
Okay.
He was an incredible character. Decca at 9 Albert Embankment was a colossal organisation. It was an international company that was started in Britain, and he was the boss of Decca. Now, the importance of Decca was, at that time, all of Elvis's material was released under the Decca banner. In other words, they made the product. And I had written about an idea where, now that Telstar, the first communication satellite, was launched, here was an opportunity for Elvis to appear on television without coming over here, but it could be live. It was either the Times or the Daily Telegraph picked it up and made a big thing about it, as if it was going to happen. And so it was very easy for me to ring up the boss, the secretary of the boss of Decca, and get an appointment. And I said, look, if this needs to progress, we really have to talk to, people who are playing Elvis's music and what happens. And he said, well, with the situation of radio in this country, it was just the BBC. He said, but we buy airtime on Radio Luxembourg, and our DJ is a man called Jimmy Savile. And so basically what you've got to do is beat a path to their door and see just what they're prepared to do. If they're prepared to give it a lot of publicity, it will accelerate it. Then another satellite was launched, and then a third satellite called Early Bird was launched, by which time the Beatles had become popular, and they're All You Need Is Love and the Beatles Around the World 5-minute telecast was screened. So it proved that entertainment, apart from news, would be a good idea. And I was passionate about this because I thought, we knew that Elvis was making all these movies, but here was a chance for Elvis to appear on telly by satellite. It took 10 years for it to happen, but of course it did happen.
It certainly did. Well, you've just hit on a certain person there. Your next stop obviously was to meet Britain's biggest DJ at the time, but what did Roy Castle have to do with that meeting?
Well, the strange thing was that I had found out that Savile was appearing on the Helen Shapiro show. You might have heard the stories of, I spent quite a bit of time with Helen Shapiro, and Jimmy Savile spent a lot of time with ladies that were visiting him backstage. But one of the people that was in the cast, during he was there for 3 weeks, and one of the weeks it was Roy Castle, and he inspired me to learn how to tap dance, which, believe it or not, I did learn how to tap dance. I can't do it now, I can't bloody walk, for Christ's sake. Hence, tap dancing is very hard. I went as far as gold, and then I gave it up. But it was good fun while it lasted, because there was me and 12 women.
Really?
Yes.
No wonder you enjoyed it.
Yes.
No wonder you enjoyed it. Okay, I want to talk about move on a few years to the start of what became huge and popular Elvis Presley conventions. You had the biggest stars attending these conventions, so tell us how that got started and what led into it, and tell us about some of the people that you actually had at the conventions.
The amazing thing was, and it was amazing, that these people would appear for free. And when you've got a convention audience that had 6 DJs from Radio Luxembourg and the BBC, you'd got the BBC filming the convention, you had in the audience to see what was the 68 special on one occasion was Tim Rice, Andrew Lloyd Webber, dozens and dozens of stars had actually come to see Elvis. Now, whether they thought Elvis was going to appear on stage, I really don't know. I always remember that it was held on the Jewish Day of Atonement, and there are only certain things that Jewish people can do on that day unless you cordon off the area. Now, Emperor Roscoe, his dad Joe Pasternak and his uncle Boris Pasternak came from a very powerful Jewish family, and he had permission from the Beth Din on the understanding that we surrounded the De Montfort Hall with a ring. It was supposed to be string, but we couldn't get any string because we needed loads of it. So we got wool, and we draped wool around trees and lampposts and goodness knows what else. So you had that cordon around, and that enabled Roscoe to do his program on Radio 1 live.
Oh, okay.
So,
fabulous.
So we had, lots and lots of people. Spencer Davis, who was top of the charts at the time, had just come back from the States from seeing Elvis. Everybody had a story to tell, and it was great.
And they were attended by thousands upon thousands of Elvis fans at the time, weren't they?
Yeah.
And all the media was there, of course.
It was not only, we had Anita Harris, we had people who were in the charts, chart acts of the time. You couldn't do that now because, name me a chart act. One that you could go up to and speak to. Years ago it was easy, and you didn't have to be a stage door Johnny to do it. It just happened. And of course, you put your arms out to Taylor Swift, because the Swifties, for instance, have re-established the importance of fans.
Okay.
Because her fan following is incredibly good.
It is.
It was inspired by her mum, and that's what has kept Elvis in this country bigger, I would say, than anywhere else in the world per head of population, because Elvis is still talked about today, and it's now to do with me. It's everything to do with you.
You can say that the events were advertised in the Elvis Monthly at the time, and there's a guy who printed the Elvis Monthly who's with us this week here at Hemisphere, a guy called David Jackson. David, where are you? Give us a wave. David? Where is he?
Oh, he's over there.
He's over there. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a big round of applause.
Yeah.
There's a guy who printed the Elvis Monthly and the Billy Joel Monthly as well. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
In fact, all of our titles, of which there were many, all had an association on the whole with Radio Luxembourg.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit later on about the fan club today, but we're going back to the beginning. Obviously, you had to purchase the fan club from Albert Hand. Tell us about that.
Well, I actually bought Fresh Air because I had been helping Albert Hand with various conventions and the like, and they were all a bit dire, to be honest with you. Because you had got sort of people like Peter Aldersley talking about what was going to happen and what wasn't going to happen, and it wasn't spiritual at all. There was no soul to it, and I thought, if I take it over, I've got to make it full of entertainment, which is I was able to do that. It was an amazing thing to actually go to Hina, give to Albert Hand £2,000. I had to pay for it in instalments in blank postal orders, and I acquired it. Now, to give you some idea, when I bought the fan club, I also bought my first home, and that was £3,000. So the £2,000 today would be about 35 grand. It was a big investment. But when I got to know what was happening, Elvis Monthly was teetering. It wasn't doing much business at all, because it started to look shabby, and when I got involved full-time, I've made it have colour and colour covers and the like to make it look more of a substantial magazine. But it was trying to build up the integrity of what we were doing, and I think that was the hard part. But it really worked eventually.
Okay, good. You took thousands of fans to see Elvis in concert, of course, and we touched on this on the last two interviews that we did, but what we didn't touch on was the fact that, how did that start? I mean, who did you contact Elvis's people, Colonel Parker, for instance, or did they contact you or vice versa, you know, whatever?
It was really strange. When Elvis, That's the Way It Is was being filmed, when the planning was being filmed, I got a call from somebody at RCA, Roddy Burbick, I think, who said, look, in 3 weeks' time, Elvis opens at the International Hotel. We think it'd be a good idea if you take a couple of hundred Elvis fans over for the opening. And I said, it would be a fabulous idea. But Elvis fans are Sid Alice and the kids, so they're going to have to save up to go. Also, you ain't going to get a passport if you've not got one in less than a month. And when you've got your passport, you've got to get a visa that will take 6 weeks. So it was an impossibility to do. I then contacted Colonel Parker's office and said, look, thanks for the kind invitation, but can we do it in a couple of years when people have saved up enough money to go? Because although it was only, I think, 180 quid eventually to go to the States and you know, Nashville, Memphis, Tupelo, and LA and Vegas, of course, people had to save for it. And £189 then was a lot of money. And if you were going with your wife or somebody else's wife, you had to, you know, really save hard.
December the 3rd this year, you have a new book being released about Mr. Parker. You released a book, say 18 months ago on Tom Parker.
Yeah.
Tell us the difference between the two books, if any. Is it a revamped version of your own book? Or
No.
Tell us.
What happened was, there was a company called Omnibus that I did a book with years ago that was written by me and Ann Nixon. It was a hardback book, I can't remember, the Illustrated Elvis or something like that, I can't remember the title. And it sold something like 25,000 copies. And I thought, well, maybe they would be interested, particularly as they had released a copy of the book translated into Portuguese. Not for people in Portugal, but for people in South America. Obviously, everybody in Brazil speaks Portuguese. And we believe it sold 50,000 copies. Now, from all these books that you do through publishers, I've received very few royalties because, you know, it gets lost in the ether over the years. But I said to them, they contacted me and said, would you do an Elvis book for the 90th? But will you make it a picture book? So I said, yes, yeah, I can do that, so not a problem. But I'll only do it if you publish my war book. And they said, yeah, we'll be happy to do that. So I went to meetings in London, which everybody was so enthusiastic. Then I got a call out of the blue, and the guy said, we can't sell books anymore. They're a music publisher. They used to be called music sales, sheet music. But with 60% of all the bookshops closing down, there's no room for the specialist music books, even specialist Elvis books, on their shelves, unless they're high-end and you want to sell a book for 25 quid, where the high-end books sell at 50 quid. And I said, well, it's what it is. It's 25 quid, and that's what the market will stand. So they never did it. And the same thing obviously happened with the wartime book. Now, I decided to do the wartime book because it's based around the printer, the owner of the printing company, that we've been introduced today to one of his workers, produced. And it was a big business, was Print House. And Albert Hand Publications, which was jointly owned by Robert Stigwood, was very, very successful for a while. And they had Pop Weekly, obviously Elvis Monthly, Fury Monthly, Teen Beat, and a dozen other pop music titles. And then when I came in, we did Rock Video and Rasta Mag, which was Rastafarian magazine, which was quite successful for a fortnight. And a lot of other technical titles, one of which was Satellite TV News. And I had been approached by the Luxembourg government to help their cultural department with regard to them setting up this History of Radio Luxembourg museum in the Grand Duchy. And I'd supplied them with all the memorabilia and stuff that I'd got, as to did, you know, the DJs that worked for Luxembourg, but I'd got quite a lot of, we used to do Club 208 magazine. And they were really enthusiastic, and I was telling one of the people about Tony Atkinson, the guy that owned Print House, and his wartime exploits. And they said that would make a good book. So that's how it came about. I then heard only last week that Richard Madeley wants to make a documentary on an untold war story. So we are, the we being me, the royal me, because it's only me, and a guy from the BBC are having discussions next week with Richard Madeley to see if he wants to take the book on. If that happens, I make a few quid. But as I said, that old expression from up north, I've heard ducks fart before, is definitely worth the book.
And this is the book called The Printer Went to War.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a few things now that I think the fans could be excited about if it happens. Past couple of interviews we've talked about the Baz Luhrmann releases, and that's the way it is on Untold, and you told us that it's not going to happen. Do you still stand by that thought?
I would like to see it happen, but you know, every time he says it's going to happen, it doesn't. Now there might be reasons behind that. I mean, and in the meantime, the Netflix of this world are bringing out their own documentaries. It's all surrounded by the 68 special and the little bits of film that Graceland EPE own. They don't have a lot of ownership in much of Elvis Presley's movie material, and even less in connection with Elvis's music. So it's difficult for them, but things can be overcome, and I don't think there's a lot of energy in that area. Now, if he does do it, he's got to do it quick, because in 5 years' time, we're all 5 years older, and time doesn't stand still, as I really know.
The next exciting thing is Elvis Evolution.
Yeah,
do you know anything about this? And,
the evolution is a bit of a mystery, because the trails that you've seen on the internet show you a little bit of film from the 68 special. I'm told that there are only 2 performances in the exhibition. The exhibition costs between 75 and 300 quid, dependent if you want a happy snap and a free vodka at the end of it all in the tiki bar. Do you know, for 300 quid you can have a week's holiday there in exchange for what would be 90 minutes, because that's all that exhibition will operate for. Then you're out the door, or in the tiki bar.
I've just interrupt you for a second. I've been told that the initial start of it is that you're actually in the rehearsals with Elvis for the 68 special, and then it ends with you being seated at the concert of the 68 special. Whether there's any footage in between or what, I don't know, because obviously nobody's seen it yet. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
Well, it's very interesting when you see the trail. It concentrates on the home music, exclusive, never before seen home movies that we've always seen before. And that's it's a big part of the exhibition. You can't put much into 90 minutes, and it's a walk-through exhibition, so you've got to be able-bodied. I've tried to contact these people, Initially, it appeared to be successful, but somebody threw a spanner in the works, as somebody threw a spanner in the works with regard to a similar sort of thing I wanted to do with regard to the Arches. This country, for Elvis Presley Enterprises, is a cash cow. Everything that comes out of the UK is highly successful.
It is.
If you look at the Royal Philharmonic stuff, incredibly successful. You know, from that, we had all the tours with the London Philharmonic and film of Elvis on the big screen. It's what people wanted to do, and they will still carry on doing it because it makes money. How long they can do that, the same thing, I really don't know. Now, this evolution thing is a bit strange because it's run by a company that has done War of the Worlds, which you really got to be very fit to do that because you're running around in circles. And also the one that I've been to is the one next to the Tower of London. And they've had that many issues with what you would think is dry ice, but it's not. It's something that's in the atmosphere. It's smokes everywhere. And people are suing them for, you know, asthma attacks and great problems. If they do the same thing with the Elvis to give it that ethereal atmosphere, I don't think it'll be that successful. It's only here, apparently, allegedly, for 3 months. And the company has got no money. In fact, if you look at their accounts, you can see that the money they get is from crowdfunding. In other words, if you want to invest in it, and there's a little word in, it might say, it says something along the lines of, if you invest your money, you might make money, but there's a chance you'll lose money. So I find that a bit odd.
Okay, Tom, we've got one more question before we wrap this up, but before we do that, on a personal note, I'd just like to say that this next word I'm going to use could be used by many in the industry as quite lightly, but the word legend comes to mind when I have the privilege of talking to this guy, because there's so many things that he has done in the Elvis world that would not have come to fruition if this guy had not been involved. Todd Slaughter, we thank you for your time with the fan club. We thank you for everything that you've ever done to promote Elvis, whether it's here in Europe or the US, and to us here at Elvis Week at MSB, you truly are a legend. Thank you, Todd Slaughter.
Thank you very much.
Stand up, give a big round of applause, he deserves it. So, to finish off with, you've passed on the custodian of the fan club to Adrian and Candy. So, should we get them up and have a little chat with them?
Yeah.
Come on, give a big round of applause to Adrian and Candy, ladies and gentlemen. Keep clapping as they make their way to the stage. Don't be shy, come on. Oh, look at this. Come on. Coming up, guys.
Now you've got to jump up because I can't.
You can have the seat. There you go. Do you want to sit down? Okay. Congratulations to you both. Okay, you're welcome. Congratulations. Do you want to tell us, I was going to ask Todd this question, but actually I'm going to hand the mic over to you, okay? Don't be shy, okay? So you can tell us how this came about.
So obviously, actually we were at the Yesterday Once More Bossa Nova Baby in Benidorm trip earlier this year, and Adrian was talking about some of his future plans for the Elvis for Sale shop and what he wanted to achieve. And I said that I had seen that Todd had announced that he was looking for new custodians, and I thought that we might fit the bill and it would achieve Adrian's objectives for Elvis for Sale. And there's very, very big boots to fill, and he's a one person, and I thought it would probably take two of us to fill those boots. And we chatted about it. We got in contact with Todd. We went down to Bournemouth and spent the weekend in Bournemouth and went to dinner and thrashed it all out, and here we are.
I don't know what to say.
Is anybody going to take some happy snaps of this group?
Yeah, that was basically it. Lying on the sunbed in Benidorm, the idea started. Sorry, Colin, first time using the mic. And yeah, took it from there, and it's already shown, you know, a lot of interest from people. It's already grown. The shop has already grown, and Todd obviously will stay on as our honorary president and support us fully in everything that we do.
Well, on behalf of all of us, we wish you all the very best of luck. The flyers are on your tables, or they should be, ladies and gentlemen. Please, sign up for membership over there, of course, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. You're going to in for a couple of little special treats this afternoon. Once again, thank you guys. Good luck with the fan club. Adrian, Candy, we wish you all the very best. Todd Slaughter, sir, happy health. Enjoy your retirement and keep smiling. You know it makes sense. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, come on. Colin, well done, mate. Colin, Todd, very interesting half hour there. And Candy and Adrian, of course, we wish them all the best. If you are not a member, do it today. Because it must be scary starting an adventure like that, but I know it's in good hands. You'll be all right, Adrian, you'll be all right, don't worry. You'll survive. Okay, as they're taking photos, do feel free to come up and take one if you wish.